The Queen Who Watched the Battle. The arena roared with the sound of battle. Screams, cheers, and metal clashing echoed through the sky. Thousands of alien warriors fought under two suns, while the crowd above watched from floating platforms. Each fight ended in blood. Each death earned applause. At the very top, seated on a tall golden throne, was the Queen of Zartal. Her face was calm, her eyes cold. She had watched these battles for years, and nothing surprised her anymore. She was called Queen Zilari the Silent, because she never spoke during the games. Not once, until today. As two massive lizard warriors ripped each other apart, a strange noise rang in the air, a sudden alarm. All eyes turned toward the sky. Something was falling, fast. A small damaged spacecraft crashed near the arena grounds, smoke rising from its broken hull. Royal guards ran forward, weapons raised, ready to kill anything inside. But then, the door opened. Out crawled a human, dirty, bleeding, barely alive. The guards laughed. Even the crowd above joined in. "A human?" one shouted. "Is this a joke?" Humans were considered weak in this galaxy, soft, slow, easy to crush. They weren't warriors. They were workers, traders, farmers. No one feared them. The Queen said nothing. The human collapsed onto the stone floor. His body was shaking. His armor was torn. His name, written in faint letters on his chest plate, read, D-Cross. The guards moved forward, ready to drag him away like trash. But then, he moved. Slowly, painfully, the human stood up. His left leg was clearly broken. His right arm was bleeding, heavily. But he stood. Tall. Defiant. One of the alien warriors saw him and grinned. "Let me kill him," the alien roared, stepping forward with two glowing swords. The crowd laughed again. They expected the human to beg for mercy, or run. But Daniel Cross did neither. He looked the alien dead in the eyes, and smiled. The Queen leaned forward slightly on her throne. Her eyes narrowed. The alien swung fast, too fast for any normal man, but Daniel ducked. Then he moved closer, kicked the alien's leg, and grabbed a fallen blade. His movements were not strong, but smart. His training showed in every step. He fought like a soldier, not a gladiator. The alien swung again. Daniel blocked it with the blade and twisted his body. With a grunt, he used the alien's weight against him. The warrior fell to the ground. The crowd gasped. Daniel staggered, his chest rising and falling with each breath. His face was pale, but his eyes burned with fire. That's when it happened. The Queen stood up. For the first time in many years, the arena went silent. Even the alien who had just lost stared in fear. Her voice echoed like thunder across the sky. "I want him." The words were soft, yet powerful. No one spoke. No one laughed. She had broken her silence. For a human, the generals beside her looked shocked. One stepped forward. "Your Majesty, what do you mean? Shall we kill him for you, or chain him?" The Queen's eyes never left Daniel. She spoke again. "Bring him to me, alive." The crowd didn't cheer. They only watched. The human collapsed again, falling to his knees, exhausted. He didn't know what had just happened, but everyone else did. Queen Zilari had chosen him, and that choice would change the fate of the Empire. The Chosen One. Daniel. Cross woke up gasping for air. He wasn't lying on dirt anymore. He was on soft black fabric inside a chamber glowing with blue lights. Strange vines moved across the ceiling like slow snakes. The air smelled sweet, almost like honey. It was too quiet. He sat up, confused. His body ached everywhere. But he was alive. Then he noticed something odd. He was no longer wearing his armor. His wounds had been cleaned and bandaged. His left leg was in a soft brace. There was food beside him. Alien fruit, glowing softly in the dark. Daniel didn't touch it. He was a prisoner. He was sure of it. But where were the guards? Where were the chains? Before he could move, the wall slid open without a sound. A tall alien in silver armor stepped inside. Her face was like stone. No emotion, no smile. She said one sentence. The Queen has chosen you. Prepare yourself. Daniel blinked. What? She didn't answer. She placed folded clothes on the table and left. The door sealed shut again behind her. He slowly stood up and looked around. No cameras, no guards. Just him. And silence. Meanwhile, in the royal chambers high above the city, Queen Zilari stood before her advisors. The human must be tested, one of them said. Let him prove he is not a mistake. He is broken, another sneered. Weak, soft. I can break him in one move. The queen raised a hand. All fell silent. She turned to her war priest. Begin the ritual of blood. The Yaht's priest hesitated. For him, a human? For him, she said coldly. Let the crown judge. Back in his chamber, Daniel was led through tall black corridors by two guards. The halls were quiet, but he could feel eyes watching him from the walls. He passed statues of warriors with 4 arms and wings. This place wasn't just a palace. It was a temple of war. Finally, he entered a huge chamber shaped like a circle, lit by fire. The queen sat high above, on a throne carved from a meteorite. Daniel stepped forward. His limp was worse now, but he didn't show weakness. Queen Zilari looked down at him. Her voice was soft but sharp. Tell me, human, why did you smile while bleeding? Daniel didn't answer right away. He thought about Earth, about the wars he fought, about the squad he lost. He looked up at her and said, Because I've seen worse. The queen tilted her head. Pain makes you laugh? She asked. No, he replied. Surviving does. That made her pause. Then she raised her hand. The doors opened, and a giant beast walked in, 4 meters tall, skin like black stone. Eyes, glowing red, it carried a massive axe. The queen said only one word, fight. The guards threw a blade at Daniel's feet. He stared at it. No armor? He said, laughing dryly. Great. The beast roared and charged. Daniel grabbed the blade and rolled to the side, barely avoiding the first strike. The floor cracked, under the axe's power. He moved with strategy, not speed. He stabbed at the beast's legs, trying to slow it down. The crowd above watched in silence. No one cheered. Every swing from the beast could kill him. But Daniel didn't run. He circled, waited, and then he struck. He slid under the creature, slicing across its tendon. It fell to one knee. Daniel leapt onto its back and drove the blade deep into its neck. The beast roared, then collapsed. Dead. Daniel fell beside the body, panting. His hands shook. His body was screaming with pain, but he laughed again. A small, tired laugh. From above, the queen stood once more. The guard stared in disbelief. She whispered, He laughs? At death. He's perfect. The Queen's Test. The royal halls were colder now. After the battle, Daniel Cross had been taken to a new chamber, this one even larger, with strange glowing symbols on the walls. A giant window looked out over the black oceans of Zartal. The planet felt alive, always watching. Daniel stood in silence, his arm wrapped tightly with alien cloth. He hadn't slept. He didn't trust the bed or the food. He didn't trust any of them. And yet, the queen hadn't killed him. Why? A door opened behind him. A new figure entered. Not a guard. Not a soldier. This one wore long robes with golden runes, and his eyes were silver like metal. I am High Speaker Vorth, the figure said. I prepare you for the Queen's Test. Daniel frowned. Didn't I just pass one? No, Vorth said calmly. That was survival. This is judgment. Before Daniel could ask more, the floor beneath him began to move. The room rotated and opened like a flower. The walls turned into stone pillars, and Daniel realized he was standing in an ancient arena, high above the city, hidden within the mountain. Above him, the queen appeared again, seated on a throne of vines and stone, growing from the wall itself. Queen Zilari raised her hand. "All who stand here must be judged," she said, her voice echoing. "He is not one of us," a voice called out from the shadows. Daniel turned. Around him stood 6 warriors, each one different. A shadow giant, a female with crystal skin, a beast man with claws like swords. All wore red armor, all carried strange weapons. "The queen calls them the Crowned," Fourth whispered behind Daniel. "They are the best of each species, her royal guardians." Daniel laughed softly. "So let me guess, if I lose, I die?" "No," Fourth said. "If you lose, she forgets you." The queen pointed at the 6. "You each have one chance," she said to them. "Break him." One by one they stepped forward. First came the speedster, a blur of motion and flashing blades. Daniel couldn't match her speed, so he dropped low and used the falling sand as cover. He waited, listened, and at the right moment, threw dust in her eyes and hit her with the flat of his blade. She fell. "Next," the queen said, emotionless. Second was the crystal warrior, shining like a diamond. Every strike bounced off her armor. Daniel's blade shattered, so he changed tactics. He dodged. He waited, and when she raised both arms to strike, he grabbed her from behind and slammed her into a stone column. The vibration cracked her armor. She fell. Next. The crowd watching from above grew quiet. This human was not just surviving. He was thinking, adapting. The third was the beast man. He roared and charged like a monster. Daniel was thrown into the wall. Blood spilled from his mouth, but he got up. With no weapon, he wrapped a broken chain around his fist and used it like a whip, pulling the beast's leg and dragging him down. Then, he stomped hard on the warrior's arm until the creature yielded. Daniel fell to one knee, exhausted, but still breathing. The queen raised her hand. "That's enough." But one voice shouted in rage, "No!" It was General Carthal, one of the queen's oldest warriors. "He is filth. He does not deserve your gaze." He jumped into the arena, spear in hand. Daniel barely stood. He had nothing left. But then, the queen did something no one expected. She jumped down too. Her body glowed with gold energy. Her cloak turned into wings of light. She stepped between Daniel and the general. Her voice was cold. "You question my judgment?" The general raised his weapon, and then, before anyone could react, she struck. One blow. A pulse of light. The general collapsed, unconscious. She turned to Daniel. "You are still standing," she said. "And that is more than any have done." Daniel wiped blood from his face. "Is that a pass?" The queen tilted her head. For the first time, she smiled. Just a little. "You are no longer a guest, Daniel Cross. You are my choice." The alien court revolts. In the dark chambers beneath the palace, the voices of rebellion began to rise. Glowing torches lit the old stone walls. Shadows danced like ghosts. 12 high lords of Zartal stood in a circle, their heads lowered, their voices cold. "This is madness," one hissed. "A human on the queen's side? In her blood court?" Spat another. "She smiles for him," said Lord Drak. "She protects him. Soon she may name him king." That word, king, burned like fire in their minds. Up above, the palace still glowed with golden light. The queen's wings had faded after the battle. She returned to her throne, calm and unreadable. Daniel Cross sat quietly in a guarded guest hall. He was alive, but bruised, tired, and thinking hard. He had fought monsters, outsmarted champions, and the queen had spared his life twice. But why? He wasn't sure if it was admiration or something deeper. As he cleaned a fresh wound on his hand, a voice broke the silence. "You should have died." Daniel spun. A blade was at his throat. It was one of the palace guards. Not armored, not smiling. "Easy," Daniel whispered. "You're making a mistake." "No, the Queen made the mistake," the guard growled. "She made us weak by choosing you." Daniel's eyes locked onto the man's wrist. His hand was trembling, nervous. Not a killer, a follower. Daniel acted fast. He grabbed the guard's arm, twisted it, and flipped him to the ground. The knife slid across the floor. He pressed a knee to the man's chest. "I'm not trying to take your throne," Daniel said. "But I won't die for it either." The door burst open. Other guards rushed in, weapons drawn, then froze. They saw Daniel holding down one of their own. Queen Zilari arrived seconds later. She stood in silence, staring at the scene. The attacker was dragged away, screaming about honor, purity, and tradition. The Queen didn't speak until the chamber was empty. Then she turned to Daniel. "You were almost killed in your own chamber." Daniel stood, still breathing heavy. "Seems I'm not your people's favorite." She studied him. "I've ruled for 70 years, she said. "No one has dared strike a guest of the crown. Until now." Daniel wiped his face with a cloth. "Then I guess I broke more than a few bones out there." The Queen walked toward him, slow and silent. "I did not choose you by mistake," she said. "But I did not expect war this soon." "War?" Daniel asked. "Not of armies," she replied. "Of hearts. Of pride. You have wounded the pride of my people by surviving." Later that night, in the outer halls of the palace, 2 rebels lit a signal torch. A red flare shot into the night sky. Elsewhere, silent blades were being sharpened. The Queen's enemies had begun to move. The next morning, Daniel found himself in a dark, narrow tunnel beneath the palace. He was led there by a small alien child who had no tongue. She only pointed. At the end of the tunnel, Daniel saw something shocking. A hidden room filled with paintings. Human paintings. Old photos. Torn journals. A broken earth flag. All sealed behind glass. He stepped forward and touched the dusty glass. One image was clear. A man in a spacesuit holding the hand of a small alien girl. The girl looked like Queen Zilari. Daniel whispered. "She met a human before." That's when he heard a voice behind him. "Yes," the Queen said softly. "He saved me." She told him everything. A century ago, a human crash-landed here. He was hunted, feared, hated, just like Daniel. But he risked his life to protect a young alien girl from beasts in the wild. That girl was Zilari. "He died before anyone knew his name," she said. "But I remembered." Daniel looked at the Queen for a long time. "You're part human," he said. She nodded. "Only a little, but it's why I've waited for someone like you." Outside, the city burned red. Riots began in the lower towers. Loyalists were hunted. Fires lit the skyline. The Queen turned to Daniel. "They want you dead." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then I'd better stop waiting and start fighting." Secrets of the Queen. Daniel Cross stood at the heart of the Queen's private chamber. It was not a throne room, not a war room, not even a palace. It was a place hidden deep below the city, a memory room. Glowing crystals floated through the air, showing moving images, holograms from the past. Some showed battles. Some showed royal events, but one crystal showed something else. A human man, laughing, holding a young alien girl's hand. Daniel couldn't take his eyes off it. The Queen walked beside him slowly. No crown, no armor, just a long black cloak. She looked at the image too. "His name was Elias Brand," she said quietly. "He came from Earth, a ship lost in deep space." Daniel turned to her. "The man in the photo?" She nodded. "He found me in the forests outside the city. I was 8 cycles old, wild, alone. The jungle beasts had torn my guards apart. I should have died. She paused. But he didn't run. He stayed with me, protected me for 3 nights, killed beasts with fire and steel. I had never seen anyone like him, so calm, even when bleeding. Daniel whispered. He was a soldier too. No, the Queen said. He was an engineer. Daniel smiled faintly. Even better. The Queen walked to a large mirror set into the wall. It wasn't glass, it was liquid metal. When she touched it, it showed her true reflection, not what people saw, but what was inside her, and Daniel saw it too. Her DNA spiral floated in the air. Alien, complex. But in the middle, a strand of human code. She looked at Daniel with no fear. I carry human blood. Daniel was stunned. Does anyone else know? She shook her head. Not even my council. If they ever found out, they would kill me. They worship purity. I rule with silence and control. But not truth. Daniel took a step forward. Why are you telling me this now? She looked him straight in the eyes. Because you are the first one who made me feel fear. The kind that means something. He didn't know what to say. Then she added, and because I may not live through tomorrow. Outside, war drums echoed through the sky. The rebel fleet had launched. Dozens of ships surrounded the Capitol Tower. Sirens howled in the streets. The people were told lies. The Queen is broken. The throne is infected. She bows to a human. In the war chamber, her advisors begged her to escape. Leave the planet, we will find a new world. You can rebuild, they cried, but she raised one hand. No, she said, I will not run. I will not hide what I am anymore. They stared in shock. She turned to Daniel. Will you stand with me? She asked. Not as a guard, not as a toy, as my equal. Daniel stared at her, still bleeding from past wounds. He remembered the arenas. The test, the blade at his throat, and the one person who had never looked down on him was her. Yes, he said. I'll stand with you. The palace doors opened. The Queen walked out first, dressed in golden armor with burning wings of light. Daniel walked beside her in black armor, forged from her own royal forge. Below them stood hundreds of enemies, blades raised. Above them, the crown chamber began to glow. It was time for the final test. War inside the palace. The palace was a Krieger, no longer silent. Explosions shook its ancient walls. Smoke poured through the halls like black ghosts. Screams echoed from chamber to chamber as rebels stormed the royal tower. The Queen stood at the heart of it all, her golden armor cracked, her energy blade drawn. She had no crown on her head, only fire in her eyes. Beside her stood Daniel Cross, armor scorched, breathing heavy. He held a shield made from the bones of a giant beast given to him by her hand. His human-made pistol had only 2 bullets left, and hundreds of rebels were coming. Outside the throne room, the Queen's loyal guards, fewer than 30 now, held the final line. Inside, the crown stone glowed brightly, reacting to the war outside. This is it, Daniel muttered. The final hour. Queen Zalari looked at him. They will break the gates in minutes, Daniel smirked. Then we break them first. Suddenly, boom, the doors exploded open. Smoke and fire filled the room. The rebels entered in full force, led by General Vashakur, a warlord with cybernetic arms and red-plated armor. Step away from the Queen, he roared. She is unfit. The throne must be clean. Daniel stepped in front of Zalari. You want the throne? He said. Come take it. Vashakur growled. You are filth, human. You don't belong here. Daniel raised his shield. Neither. 2 cowards who kill from shadows. The battle began. Steel clashed with alien bone. Fire met lightning. Daniel fought like a man with nothing left to lose. He moved with purpose, not power. He dodged, rolled, struck from behind. His broken leg slowed him but never stopped him. Beside him, the Queen fought like a storm. Graceful, deadly, glowing with light. Each time rebels tried to surround Daniel, she cut them down. Each time her blade wavered, Daniel shielded her with his body. They weren't just fighting for each other, they were fighting with each other. One by one, the guards fell. But so did the rebels. Blood painted the throne room floor. Sparks flew from the walls. In the chaos, Vashakor charged straight at the queen. Daniel saw it too late. The general leapt over the flames, blade ready to strike. But instead of fear, the queen smiled. She whispered, "Now." And Daniel moved. He took the full hit. The blade tore through his side. He didn't fall. He grabbed Vashkor's weapon, pulled him in, and jammed his last bullet straight into the warlord's neck. The general fell, choking. Daniel dropped to one knee. Blood poured from his side. The queen ran to him. "Don't move," she said. He smiled faintly. "I told you I'd stand with you." Then the palace lights began to change. The crown stone in the center of the throne room began to rise. 1,000 voices whispered from its core. The crown was ready to choose. According to Zartal law, when power is threatened, the crown must select its next ruler. But something was wrong. The queen stepped forward, expecting the light to glow for her. It didn't. It flickered. Then it moved. Slowly, it floated toward Daniel. The light grew brighter, warmer, and then it bowed to him. Everyone froze. The crown had chosen a human. Daniel, bleeding, barely conscious, whispered, "What is happening?" The queen fell to one knee before him. Tears glistened in her glowing eyes. She said softly in front of all who remained, "The crown does not choose blood. It chooses spirit." The crown chooses. Silence fell across the shattered throne room. Flames crackled in the corners. Ash drifted through the air like snow. Bodies, both rebel and loyal, lay still on the stone floor. And in the center of it, all, Daniel Cross knelt, bleeding, broken and confused. Above his head the crown stone floated, glowing with pure white light. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, reacting to him, not the queen, not her council, him, a human. The queen, still, kneeling, lowered her head in front of him. The surviving guards followed one by one. Even the enemies left alive dropped their weapons. Daniel blinked. I'm not a king," he said weakly. "You are what the crown says you are," Queen Zalari replied softly. "And the crown has chosen." Daniel tried to stand, but pain shot through his side. The queen moved closer, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "You survived where no alien could," she said. "You bled for people who hated you. You fought not for glory, but to protect." "The throne doesn't care about species, it cares about will." The crown stone suddenly moved again, spinning faster. Then, it broke apart. Tiny shards of light floated around Daniel and then merged into his chest. A wave of warmth spread through his body. His wounds stopped bleeding, his back straightened. The pain was gone, but something new had taken its place. Power, knowledge, memory. He saw images from thousands of years ago. Every ruler, every battle, every law. His eyes glowed with golden light. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was the chosen voice of the empire. Later that day, the queen and Daniel stood on the palace balcony. Below them, thousands of citizens looked up. Some were silent, some cried. Some held weapons and dropped them. Zalari stood tall and spoke. "For centuries we ruled with blood, with fear, with silence." She turned and faced Daniel. "But today a human reminded us of something we forgot. Honor." Daniel stepped forward. The sun burned behind him, casting his shadow across the crowd. "I don't want power," he said, "but I won't run from it either. If the crown chose me, then I'll carry it. Not for conquest, not for pride, but for peace." A child in the crowd raised their hand and shouted, "Is he our king now?" Daniel looked at the queen. She smiled. "He is not your king." She walked to Daniel's side and took his hand. "He is your partner." That night, fires were put out. The people sang. The blood was cleaned from the palace walls. Rebel leaders surrendered. The city healed. And in the stars above Zartal, a new message was sent out to the galaxy. The Empire of Zartal now stands under the leadership of Queen Zilari and Daniel Cross of Earth. Let it be known, honor has no species. Inside the palace garden, Daniel sat alone watching the stars. The queen joined him quietly. "You could leave," she said. "Return to Earth, live in peace." He shook his head. "I came here by accident," he said. "But staying, that's my choice." She looked at him. "And your reason?" Daniel smiled faintly. "You.